On the 30th of December 2006, at 6:04 in the morning, before Baghdad had fully woken from its sleep, a man who had ruled Iraq for nearly a quarter of a century walked into a small room beneath a building in the Arabiya district of the city he once commanded. He was not afraid. He was insulted, which to him was far worse. His full name was Saddam Hussein Abd al-Majid al-Takriti. He was born in 1937 in a mud brick village called Al-Aja, outside the city of Tikrit, in a family with no money, no influence, and no father. His father disappeared before he was born. His mother tried to take her own life while pregnant with him. He was raised by an uncle who beat him. By the age of 10, he was carrying an iron bar for protection walking to school. By 20, he had joined the Ba'ath Party. By 22, he had participated in an assassination attempt on the Iraqi Prime Minister. He was shot in the leg during the escape. He pulled the bullet out himself and kept running. He was captured, tortured, exiled. He studied law in Cairo. He read Stalin. He took notes. In 1968, the Ba'ath Party seized power in Iraq. Saddam Hussein was not yet president, but everyone in the room already knew who was really in charge. In 1979, he made it official. In his first cabinet meeting as president, he stood at the front of the room and read out a list of names, men he accused of treason. As each name was called, the man was taken from the room. Saddam Hussein sat down, lit a cigar, and watched. 68 men were arrested that day. 22 were executed. Some of the executions were carried out by the remaining cabinet members themselves, to ensure loyalty through shared guilt. Over the next 2 decades, he launched a war against Iran that killed an estimated 1 million people. He ordered chemical weapons dropped on the Kurdish town of Halabja, killing 5,000 civilians in a single day. He invaded Kuwait. He built palaces while his people starved under international sanctions. And then in March 2003, American and coalition forces entered Iraq. 21 days later, his statue fell in Firdos Square. 9 months after that, American soldiers found him hiding in a hole in the ground 8 feet deep, 6 feet wide, near his hometown of Tikrit. The man who had sent hundreds of thousands to their deaths offered his hands quietly for the zip ties. He said only, "I am Saddam Hussein, the president of Iraq. I want to negotiate." There was nothing left to negotiate. He spent 3 years in American custody. He was tried before the Iraqi Special Tribunal for Crimes Against Humanity, specifically for the massacre of 148 Shia men and boys from the town of Dujal in 1982, ordered after an assassination attempt on his motorcade. He was defiant throughout the trial. He refused to recognize the court's legitimacy. He called the judges agents of occupation. He went on hunger strike. He was removed from the courtroom multiple times for disrupting proceedings. On November 5, 2006, the verdict was read: guilty, crimes against humanity. Sentence: death by hanging. He responded by shouting, "Long live the nation! Long live the Arab nation! Down with the spies!" On the night of December 29, 2006, Saddam Hussein was transferred to the custody of Iraqi authorities. He knew what the morning would bring. He spent part of the evening writing. The letter he produced was not an apology. It was not a confession. It was addressed in formal terms to the Iraqi people, to the Arab nation, and to all of humanity. He wrote that he was sacrificing himself. He wrote that he bore no hatred toward those who had fought him, those who had collaborated with what he called the occupation. He asked Iraqis to unite. He asked them not to take revenge on each other. And then he wrote his final line: "Here I offer my soul to God as a sacrifice, and if he wants, he will send it to heaven with the martyrs." He folded the letter, and then, according to the guards who were with him, Saddam Hussein slept. They reported that he woke calm. The execution was to take place at Camp Justice, the former headquarters of Iraqi military intelligence in the Arabiya district of Baghdad. This was not a coincidence. This building had been used by Saddam's own security services to detain, interrogate, and torture political prisoners. He was brought in at dawn. He wore a dark coat. His hands were bound in front of him. He carried a copy of the Quran. The guards wore black ski masks. The official witnesses included Iraqi government officials, a doctor, and a representative of the Prime Minister's office. But someone else had brought a mobile phone into the room. What was recorded on that phone would be seen by hundreds of millions of people within 24 hours. Saddam Hussein walked to the platform without hesitation. He did not stumble. He did not ask for mercy. He did not speak to his executioners. He climbed the steps with the pace of a man who had already decided how this moment would look. Then the taunting began. From the men gathered in the room, voices started to shout a name. Muqtada, Muqtada, Muqtada. Muqtada al-Sadr, the Shia cleric whose father Saddam had ordered killed, whose followers Saddam had brutally suppressed for decades. Chanting his name at this moment was a deliberate act of humiliation. Saddam Hussein looked at the men around him, and he said, Muqtada al-Sadr. He said it slowly, with something very close to contempt, almost amused. A voice from the crowd called out, "Go to hell." Saddam Hussein looked toward the voice, and he replied, "The hell, that is Iraq." The noose was placed around his neck. A guard shouted, "Long live Mohammed Bakr al-Sadr," and Saddam Hussein, former president of Iraq, convicted of crimes against humanity, closed his eyes and began to recite the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith, the words Muslims speak at the moment of death. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasul. He did not finish the sentence. The execution was declared official at 6:10 a.m., 6 minutes after he had walked into the room. The leaked mobile phone footage spread across the internet within hours. By the end of that day, it had been seen around the world. Some Iraqis celebrated in the streets. Others condemned the manner of the execution, the taunting, the chaos, the atmosphere that many described as closer to a lynching than a legal execution. The United Nations called for an investigation. The Iraqi government defended the execution as lawful. The man who had ordered the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people was buried in his hometown of Al-Ajah, the same village where he was born. Whether Saddam Hussein deserved to die for what he did, that is not a question this channel answers. History has its own record. The victims have their own names. What this channel documents is the final moment, the last words. And what the phone camera captured, what witnesses confirmed, is that in his last 60 seconds alive, Saddam Hussein did not apologize. He did not beg. He did not break. He recited his faith mid-sentence as the floor gave way. Every week on this channel, one person, one final moment, one last statement, the history they didn't teach you in school. Subscribe.